o'clock, and Larry, I don't see Chris Willoughby on here. Chris, are you out there? So if he joins, I'll let you know, Larry. Oh, you are? Okay, good. Okay, so Larry, like I said, Chris is here, then let's try to do the legal issues first. But it's your meeting.
I only see you and Joe, and who else is on? Oh, yeah, I see all the participants now.
I see Larry, John, and John. So, you know, the good-looking ones are all on there. Everybody else just put their name.
Is Peter here someplace?
Peter is there,
Yes.
Yep.
The only person that we're missing is Lou. All right, and I didn't hear from Lou, and normally he would let me know if he's not going to be here. But let's get started. He can chime in when he gets here, if he gets here. Lou, unless you're here and you're hiding under somebody else's name, are you here? No. All right. Let's get started here. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Long Beach Building Commission, January 8th, 2021. I'll call the meeting to order at 1:02. And we have Chris Willoughby here, the town's council. And we had a couple of items that, so we don't have to have Chris on here for the duration we have. I mean, unless you want to stay, Chris. We have a couple of items that let's move to our front of the line.
Ultimately, it should just be a status report, and then we can talk about Perry and Mashmeyer.
Sounds good.
And then step 23.
All right, if you want to hit those, Chris, that'd be great.
All right, so the most pressing are, Dr. LeMay has asked, and so we thought that would be a regular way. So this is the first in the endeavors of giving a regular report so that the building commission is aware of where we're at and what we have. And so, you know, COVID has kind of made some things difficult in terms of dealing with some violations in a cost-effective manner. But so I'll get to a little bit to more of that at the end of this report. But ultimately, as I informed Dr. LeMay and Larry, we have initiated. So we're just waiting, and I'll give regular updates as to the progress to the building commission. We have filed lawsuits and are pending for Arthur Miller, and I do not have all those addresses.
2210 Lakeshore Drive, Chris. I've got your email in front of me.
So Arthur Miller. We also have Wheeler, right? And that address, that was
1612 Indianapolis.
Indianapolis. One second. Sorry, my computer froze up here.
And I've got Nash at 1906 Lakeshore Drive.
Yes, and so all of those are initiated, and we've without going too much, because it's not appropriate to discuss the status of litigation and the details of those. And no, they're out there. But I mean, at the end of the day, we've asked the court for all the relief we can possibly get, including injunctive relief and orders to tear out things that were done in contravention of stop work orders or without permits, and asking for judgments, etc. Those were the three main ones that have been out there. Those are all pending, and I'll give you regular updates.
Chris, when you said 1610, did you mean 1602?
Yes.
It's actually 12, isn't it?
I
1612.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So
Is that really 1602?
Whatever that correct address is, it is your.
It's 1602.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is I am speaking because my computer froze up. So giving that status, that is the correct one.
Okay.
I make a joke, but it's not a joke. The one where cousin Jimmy was building the rooftop deck and didn't
Yeah.
really care about our stop work, right? So
Yeah, that's the one, and Jimmy's still working every day.
we've asked for that. We've asked for injunctive relief, and you know we'll go from there. Just because they build doesn't mean it stays there, but those are all off the ground. We have several, and some are hodgepodge, and I don't know how to better describe that. I mean, there's some for parking from the police department, which don't involve you, and you know a few. So short of you guys identifying as you progress through your meetings going forward, the courts, and I've explained this to the town council before, we have a regular standing date for municipalities the first Wednesday of every month. And right now, they've all been pushed. Like the next cattle call is March, the first Wednesday in March. And so what those are is anybody who's pending has or will receive notice for the newer ones. And they show up and they either agree to pay or resolve it before that, or we set it for a hearing date in the future. And that's what makes it cost effective. The problem right now is the courts are closed. And so we would have to do an individual Zoom or phone call for each of those. And those just don't make sense. That doesn't make sense. So if anything becomes pressing, we're going to follow the route of what we've done and initiate the lawsuits. Okay. If we're collecting the fines and the citations are out there, we're following that other method, because when I say cattle call, that's a general term that we use. It's kind of here we are, we show up and it's the halls of the courtroom and we resolve it or we set it for a hearing. It's kind of like a small claims trial, for lack of a better description. That is the most cost effective and easiest way to deal with those. Okay. And then the other press ones, going back to Mashmeyer, that one is prepared and ready to file. And I'm going to defer to Larry. My understanding was that one is resolved or resolvable. At least that's the thought. We can move forward at any time. I'm prepared just like the other ones. The complaint's prepared. And I'm going to defer on that one because that one is sitting there pending further direction. We did send correspondence to them, and then I know that there was some discussions and some things submitted. So that's the information I have. And then lastly, Perry. Larry and I met with Mr. Perry and Mrs. Perry and their counsel, who is new counsel. And I mean, quite frankly, they're anxious, despite what anybody might think. They are anxious to get done because they are ready to be in compliance and focus on perhaps the crux of a lot of their issues, which is their contractor, which doesn't involve us at all. And, you know, they have some mechanics lien issues and issues with their builder, and again, none of those are our problem. We came to our final, and we've made that known to them. We are also prepared to do with them like we've done with the other ones that you guys have kind of earmarked as the serious violators, and pending getting a number in terms of grade and where the buttress has to be brought into compliance. They have agreed. We're just going to insert a number into our final agreement with deadlines in there, and we will be. That one is resolved in my mind, unless Larry disagrees. But you know, their counsel's involved. They have a new attorney. In my mind, you should rely on that, and I think it will be resolved here in a timely fashion.
Yes, I agree. It's not a change from what we had discussed previously. It's not a change from the meeting that we had previously. As Chris said, they got a new attorney, and Chris addressed that. I can't remember what I called it last month, memo of understanding, I guess. And that was back and forth with Chris. And they wanted to meet one more time with both our lawyer, Chris, and myself, and their lawyer, and the Perrys, which we did. And they have agreed to, with their lawyer present, agreed to compliance.
And we've also made it known to them, we're not doing this anymore. Larry and I have personally been out. Together a couple times, you know, we've made it known, and I know there are certain members of the commission that feel like this is long overdue, and and things. But the other violations when we were out there, I didn't see any others in terms of encroachments and those kinds of things, but they all are aware that those are full compliance. Those are the terms, and that's what's holding over their head for the certificate of occupancy. And if we don't move forward from here, that we are moving forward in terms of court enforcement. And that'll all be in writing, and they're going to commit to that as well. I mean, to me, it really doesn't matter they do it or not, but the writing doesn't hurt. It's really overkill on our part. We don't need that, but it also helps everybody to not have any wiggle room. It'll be clear. Here's the exact grade. Here's what you need to do. And that was the last little detail that their attorney, because we've communicated the what, but he asked for a specific, and that's reasonable.
Is there time for questions?
Not yet. Let's let Chris finish with his.
Finished.
I got questions on two things he said. Number one, on the Perry, I still, and nobody wants to listen to me, and I've only said this now for probably the last year. I still think, Larry, that there's an issue that is on the east side of that building. And nobody seems to want to look at it. And I know you said that the gas company could come and move the gas meter. I understand that. But if you look at the east side of the building, there's a drop off there. And I want to see a description of exactly what they're going to do. Because are they going to leave some of the, whatever that damn thing is called, the buttress, are they going to leave some of it there so they have a way to get out of the front door, and then they're going to need other part for the 30 foot? Or are they not going to have anything in front of the front door? And when you talk about the grade, before we agree to a grade, I sure as hell, which I've said before, and I never get what I ask for, I sure as hell would want to know what grade you guys are talking about. Because
I can answer those questions for you, Joe.
Yeah.
The first is the grade. The grade is the grade that was at the existing grade before they started the work. We have the survey from Steve Thate that has the grade listed, the existing grade before the work was started on it. And that's the grade that they have to return to in order to be compliant.
okay,
That's
on the grade issue, Larry, I would love to walk over there with somebody if you guys would give me the courtesy, and I'd like to see what you guys are talking about physically, because the other thing that was over there, and I have pictures from the beginning, is when they had a modest hill. And when we talk about the grade, are we going to use the peak of the hill for the whole grade, or are they going to put another hill in there? What are they doing? I'd like to see something.
No, we issued the permit based on the drawings that they submitted, and those drawings that they submitted had a site plan. That site plan was done by Thate Surveying. On that site plan was a grade or a mark of X number of feet above sea level. That is the grade that was existing at the home beforehand. That's the grade that we issued the permits based on, and that's the grade that they have to return to. They understand that. It's a very simple, you couldn't see it now because it's lower than the existing drive. So we do have the drawing, and that's the grade that they have to return to. I mean, it's a very simple process. Here's the number, for lack of a better, of not having a drawing in front of me. Let's say it's 602. That means your grade has to be returned to 602 across the front of your house. The buttress itself, to answer your second question, the buttress has to be cut off at that grade back to the house. They understand that, and they're going to do that. As far as your question about the gas meter and any other issues that come up, those were not part of compliance when we issued the original permit. If they have to go to NIPSCO and have them move the gas meter or make some provision to protect the gas meter, that's up to them. We wouldn't dictate that to them.
Well, Larry, what I would like to see a diagram of where they're going to put the parking spaces. That's what I'd like to see. Because what I'm trying to tell you guys, and nobody wants to listen to me, that if we go down there on the east side of that property, there's going to be a problem once they tear the grade down, the buttress down. And I'm asking you if they're going to leave part of the buttress underneath the front door, or they're not going to leave it underneath the front door.
No, they will have
Those are the kind of things I'd like to see a diagram to where they're going to have 3 10 by 20 parking spaces. That's what I'd like to see.
Let's just put this to bed right now. They gave us drawings, and we issued a permit based on those drawings. They have to be compliant with those drawings. That's what we've asked them to do, or told them they have to do. If they have to make some provision in order to do that, that's on them. If the buttress is coming out to the grade that was the existing grade, if they have to have a step to get into their front door, then they're going to have to come back to us and tell us that. The step that it would most likely, and I don't have the grade in front of me, a step that would have to be put at the front door may have been on the drawings. When they first came to us, when Steve Wilson first came to us with the drawings, they were not compliant. They didn't have the 3 parking places. They had encroachment on the west side of the house into the side setback. We told him at that time, we cannot issue this permit. You have the option of either going to the BZA to request variances, or you can come back with drawings that are compliant. After 2 renditions of drawings, they came back with drawings that were compliant and met our ordinances at that time, which are still the same. We issued the permit. They built something that was not according to the same drawings or to the drawings that they had submitted. That's what we're holding their feet to the fire on now. Nothing more, nothing less.
Well, I just Pete, I got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
On the right side or the east side, they will that gravel or whatever is in there slopes off dramatically.
Yes.
That will be built up.
No, it will be taken down to the existing grade before that grade that is there now is higher. And Pete, I can't tell you if it's 2 feet higher at the center and a foot higher on the east and west sides. I'd have to look at the drawings and the site plan and see what it says.
Right. I understand that.
That's going to be taken down. All that stone is going to be taken down, probably 2 feet in the center and maybe a foot on each side.
So when it comes down, will that be a level thing that a car could park on then?
Yes.
So there won't be any sloping off?
No.
Okay. And that's good. After all of this stuff, are there any fines or any fees that we're going to get out of this? I don't know how much time we've spent on these people. Are any fines or fees to the town associated with this?
If there's anything payable, yes. Some of those I think that you're going to have to take into account that, there was an agreement to have a discussion between town reps and the Perry. So, I guess bottom line is, Pete, we'll make sure that there's a provision in there that they have also, in addition to complying with the approved upon building plans that they were issued their building permit for, that they will pay all applicable fines.
Okay, and on what basis? That sounds good, but on what basis were we going to do this? I mean,
what do you mean? What basis?
Who's going to calculate this?
Calculate the fines?
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's going to have to be Larry and me, right? Unless you guys have somebody else.
Now, Lou's been involved with that process too, right? And Lou is on here now.
Yeah, I think I
will get with Lou and we'll figure it out.
okay.
I mean, the basis should be when we initially issued the stop work order and they disobeyed it. Then the question to me becomes, it's daily fines, which would be astronomical at this point in time if we went to the maximum. So you guys have to decide what the basis is for doing that. The starting point to me is when this first stop work order was issued. And from that point in time, it's the amount per day. And I don't know how that is calculated in the courts. I know what it says in our ordinance, up to a maximum of $7,500 per day for the third and subsequent violation.
Refer to how Lou wrote it up, then that'll be the basis of it, and what violations and what were corrected, and when it was potentially stayed. Because at some point, let's look at the summer, for instance, that there was discussion about the Perrys not removing it during the busy season. That's probably not reasonable to tax them for non-compliance during that. So
I have no problem with being fair. I just want to know what the formula is, because we not only have this, we have the Wheelers or wherever they are at 1602. We've got all these people that are there. And when we ask the courts for some kind of
the way we did, it's twofold here. Once things go to court, the town has the ability to negotiate and resolve matters. So we'll leave it at that. The basis is what the code says, and that's what we'll figure it on, and we'll run it by you guys. But you guys have to decide how you want to proceed. Larry and I met with them, and I feel like it's resolvable. I'll get with Lou, and we can determine, the base. I don't have the citation sitting from me, so that's the only reason I say that. I'll circle back with Lou, and we can figure out what we think the basis of any applicable fines are. The issue for those is if we have to come back to this building commission, you're either going to have a special meeting if you want to approve and consider them, or you're going to have to wait till next month, which then I would imagine is not going to make indicative for you guys to have a memorandum of understanding by Monday, for instance. And I know they're anxious for this, and it's not your problem, but they're anxious to be done with the town issues because they have timing issues with mechanics liens and their contractor. And again, nobody's asking you guys to feel sorry for the Perrys or that. That's not my point. They're motivated to be done because they want to deal with Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, well, we were motivated to be done a long time ago, and now all of a sudden we're chasing our tail.
Not chasing anybody. You're not set to their deadline. I'm just communicating the basis of their desires to be done as well.
Okay. Well, I trust Bob and Larry and you guys to figure out what it is, but it seems to me that whatever you establish for this is what we should be following with the rest of them.
Okay, Pete. Any other questions? All right.
Yes, I have another on a different, not on Perry. I'm confused, Chris, when you brought up Mashmeyer.
Yes.
Which is the 2906. If we're communicating.
2909.
Pardon, what?
2909.
Is it 09? Okay. All right. And I thought originally it was in one of the three, and then at the end you said, "Oh, you're waiting."
Yeah, it is not. It is not filed, Joe, and for the reasons I stated. And
what are Chris? You don't have to yell at me.
No, I'm not. Sorry, I'm not yelling at all. So if I'm speaking out, sorry about that.
Chris, all I'm trying to do is understand and do my job. That's all I'm trying to do.
We're on the same page, Joe.
I know I ask a lot of questions and I apologize, but I'd like to be informed what I'm doing.
I'm here to inform you. That's why I'm giving you the report. So
my question is, I thought and I apologize, I had the wrong address. I believe the address now is 2909 Lakeshore Drive. Are we all on the same page? Larry, is that the correct
Yeah.
address?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I thought what you said, the reason it hasn't been submitted is because of some negotiation going on?
I want to meet with, when Chris and I talked about this earlier in the week, he had sent to Bob and myself a list of all of the filings. I'm not sure if that's what they're called, but just call them filings. And we discussed the Perrys, obviously, because we have had numerous discussions with them in the last couple of weeks. And on the Mashmeyer issue, I asked Chris not to file it because I want to make sure that we have, I'm going to meet with him either at the end of next week or the start of the week after that with Mashmeyer. I want to make sure that we have everything that we want. Either he becomes compliant on his own, or we have everything in the filings that we need to have.
And just to add to that too, when we sent the letters out in the earlier, after that letter or crossed with that letter is when Mr. Mashmeyer communicated with my office, and then he was dealing with Larry, and I am aware that they submitted. Doesn't mean you guys approved or whatever those plans were, or that they've done that, but I know that there was communication, which is why originally I was requested not to move forward on that one. And so we did circle back. I guess it's in abeyance, for lack of a better description. It is prepared. It's ready to file. And so I work for you, but that's where we are between Larry's summary and mine, Joe. That's where it stands.
Okay, and I apologize, I might have been sleeping through the meetings, but I've never heard anything like this before about Mashmeyer. I thought that Mashmeyer was doing an occupancy of a property that he never got an approval. He's been working under a stop work order, and I didn't know that there was negotiations or anything else going on with this property for the last year. I know that he hired that other fella to bring something to the building commission, which he did, and we denied, but I didn't know anything else was lingering, and that he definitely violated the three, at least the three, the deck. There was no question there. We went over that numerous times. He put in the stairs with those large stones, which is a violation of his building permit, and he dug out at the bottom of the hill. And he's been occupying for over a year. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay.
Those negotiations are moving forward, Larry?
Yes. I want to meet with him one more time and see if he will come into compliance without going through the court system. And
Okay.
And if we do that, I'm sorry, if we do that, how about all the fines and everything that he just neglected? He's been occupying a home.
It's the same.
Joe, those are the same. And I just want to explain kind of what I'm doing, and it goes back to the summary of those. We're kind of doing two different things in the legal system. One is more collections oriented, and it's fines. We're not saying those go by the wayside, but it's a matter of the difference. For instance, to where the Mashmeyers may be is much like Miller, for instance. We're asking the court to compel them to tear everything out and do those. And my understanding from talking to Larry is that it seems that those things can be in compliance rather easily without having to go. And let's be frank, I don't take the town's time and money easily in the litigation, even though we're going to ask for a judgment and costs and all of those when we succeed on things. Those aren't guaranteed. So I want to explain, Joe, the nuance there is, if we go forward and we get injunctive relief and the court orders those torn out, etc., That doesn't get rid of fines, but they're included in that. Mashmeyer, even if they resolve, part of what we're doing is still saying, hey, we don't just get to ignore the citations.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Chris, Bob, I don't know what number it is on here. There was two things at stop 23 that you wanted to discuss. And
And that was the Moran residence, right? And I know they showed, I believe Attorney Porter showed up. I see Moran.
Yeah, this is Dennis Porter. I'm here, and I believe the Morans are on the phone as well.
And so, Mr. Porter and I have been in contact, and as we were having some discussion, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't have authority to resolve this. And so I'm kind of, I asked Mr. Porter to provide me with kind of what the Morans would like to see to resolve this. And I received a letter, and, I would imagine, I've discussed it with Dr. LeMay. I've sent it, and at the end of the day, I'm going to describe it simply as a wish list, and I don't want to put it in demand because that has a bad connotation in with what we're doing. I've had good discussions with Mr. Porter previous to his involvement. I've had good discussions with Mrs. Moran about resolving things, and while I don't think the initial reaction based on my discussion with Dr. LeMay about some of the things that are requested. And Joe, for instance, I know you don't have it in front of you, so I'm speaking blindly here to you. What I think we should do is consider, I have passed along Mr. Porter's correspondence, and have the commission and town council consider what's being asked for and give the town's position on those things. I personally, as your attorney, think that things are resolvable, even though the town may not like or agree to everything on those. I don't suspect that the Morans think that everything on there they'd get, but at the same time, they were asked for what they'd like to see, and I believe they've asked for the moon, which is that's what they'd like to see happen to those. I think this is there are many resolvable issues here that will help the town move forward with their projects and help the Morans, again, have the peace of mind that I think I indicated at a previous meeting. We started discussions about some of these encroachments started a few years ago, and then they kind of lost some steam and went by the wayside, and now they're in front and center for everybody. And I know the town wants them not to come up again, and neither do the Morans. And so I think we have an opportunity to do that. I would defer to Dr. LeMay in terms of how to go about considering those, because I really feel like most of them are a town council issue versus the building commission having the authority to what is or isn't. But I wanted to make sure that you guys understand that Mr. Porter has been in contact and has at least got off center the things that we need to address.
Thanks, Chris. And I agree. I think unless anybody else wants to have a vote or something on it, I think that those issues are more of a town council issue than building commission. Bob?
Well, two things have come up since this all started. One is two signs were placed on their seawall, lakeward of the seawall, trying to convince the residents of Long Beach that the beach in front of their seawall is in fact a private beach. It is not. And while we can't make them take down their signs, even though what their sign says isn't true, I would like to make sure that the residents of Long Beach understand that those signs can be ignored. What I would like to do is to put on our website the following, and I'd like to ask the members of this commission to approve this, and then I'll bring it to the town council because I'd like to sign the town council's name to it. So what I'd like to put on the website, and I'd like to get approval from this committee, is it has come to the town's attention that a number of our lakefront homeowners have placed private beach signs on the lakeward side of their seawalls. Most recently on the seawall just east of stop 23. The others exist all along our along our Long Beach shore. These signs seem to be placed to keep other beachgoers from enjoying the public beach in front of their properties. These signs are to be ignored as our beaches belong to the state of Indiana and our public property lakeward of the foot of the seawall. This was recently reaffirmed by the Army Corps of Engineers. The lake level does seem to be going down, so hopefully we can all enjoy the beach this summer. We hope to see you all at the beach this summer, and I'd like to sign it at the Long Beach Town Council. However, if the Long Beach Town Council doesn't want to sign it, I will sign my name to it and post it. But I'd like to ask this committee, this commission, for approval, at least to be able to tell the town council that the building commission agrees that this is a reasonable thing to post. So I'd ask for a motion to approve this.
I'll make that motion.
Larry, this is your meeting, so I'm going to let you run it.
Okay, so does everybody understand the motion?
Yeah, I understand the motion, but I got a question.
Yep.
First of all, the town.
You got to second the motion first, Pete.
Okay, so who's going to second it?
Any second?
Actually, I made the motion. Joy, did you second it?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay.
Okay, number
Okay.
one, for discussion. Number one, that sign that goes on the public property is illegal.
Well, it's on their seawall.
Pardon?
It's on the seawall.
The town has an ordinance that prohibits signs. So the town has an ordinance that would prohibit a sign. And if a sign were placed on the public trust, the town's marshal has authority to remove it. It is against state law. And any officer, duly sworn officer, has the responsibility and the authority to enforce any ordinance in the state of Indiana, any violation. So, we can enforce it wherever it's at. If it's on town, if it's within the town's jurisdiction, it's illegal. And that goes for that one, plus the one that's on Wentz property.
Chris,
But they're not in the public trust. They're attached to
I'm
the
not,
seawalls.
I'm not ultimately prepared to talk about I haven't seen them. I don't know what they look like, where they are, and whether we're getting into natural ordinary high water mark. Here's my only suggestion. I understand your point here, and I don't even know if we're if in this circumstance, I can't speak for everybody who might have those signs up and down. My suggestion is that we still run our course and see what we can resolve with the Morans, and perhaps these signs are part of it. I'm not interrupting what you're doing. I can't really speak on, but I'll be prepared to talk to the town council about that, Dr. LeMay, about the signs, and maybe get a look at them myself.
and I can check on that sign ordinance. I have to admit,
Sure.
I don't know exactly what it says.
Chris, this is Alex Porter, the attorney for the Morans. I just wanted to say that I would also think that it'd be better just before you guys proceed with this, for us to resolve the issues before we go about asking them to take down the signs. I don't want to slow down the negotiations we have that we started already. I think it would just be in the best interest of both parties.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, the other issue with this particular property is 6 arbor vitaes were planted on town property. I assume in an attempt to give them some privacy on their deck, which is also on town property. Those arbor vitaes are going to grow because they're a living thing, and they're going to obstruct the view from the top of Stop 23 of the lake. To my way of thinking, the signs and the planting of these arbor vitaes, which both happened fairly recently, are basically poking a finger in the eye of the citizens of this town. It seems to me that the Morans, we've been more than patient with the Morans. They have a driveway and a deck that are on town property, and for them to have done this really kind of spoils the milk in terms of these negotiations, in my view anyway. and I saw the letter from the Morans, and it is not at all conciliatory. I found it rather reprehensible myself.
Well, that is your opinion. And I think if you want to have discussions outside of everybody else with your attorney, I think that probably be.
Yeah, I'm going to put a stop to this, the banter back and forth here. Any other discussion from any of the building commission members?
Larry, I'd like to see whatever these, I never saw a letter. It's hard to sit here and listen to this
Okay.
when I don't know what we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, and Joe, mostly that's why I sent it to Dr. LeMay. I do think it's a town council. I'm sorry to interrupt, Larry, and Dr. LeMay, your points are well taken. I think that there are, and I could be wrong, as I always say, and Dr. LeMay reminds me, you guys are the decision makers and the town council will be, but I think that we'll distribute this letter to the town council and respond to Mr. Porter so that he can understand what the town's positions are, and we can get to what are deal breakers or not, and see what we have. And I think we can do that quickly, and then we know if we have a resolution or not.
But Chris, my point is, I assume that this commission is also an advisory commission to the town council, and I think it would be useful and helpful if this commission understood what those issues were, so we could formally or informally work with the town council and make sure we're all on the same page. And I don't know why we're not sharing this with the building commission right now.
And I would suggest that perhaps, not seeing the letter, but from the discussion, some of these issues may be the purview of the Advisory Plan Commission.
Pete, they may be. I, having seen the letter because it was sent to me, I am of the opinion that it is not a building commission matter. It's a matter of the town council and a private owner that is requesting things of the town council. It's not a building commission. It's not a permit. It's not anything that we could approve or deny.
It is 100% a town council unless they delegate somebody else. It's a town council letter issue, and the town council has authority. And from there, I'll do whatever the town council instructs.
And
So, I don't want to keep going on this because we really don't have authority to act on any of it. We do have a motion on the floor that's been on the table or on the floor that's been seconded about Bob's statement being read, or that Bob read, and that needs to have a vote.
It sounds like this isn't going to need to be modified because obviously I need to look at the sign ordinance and see what
I'd
it
like to
says.
see the sign ordinance myself, and I think
Yeah.
the motion will be withdrawn.
Yeah, I'll withdraw my motion. However, I would like to make the point that I do think that planting trees on town property is a building commission issue.
Yeah.
That probably is, Bob. I'm talking about the legal issues with the land ownership and use of the land and that type of thing. I can tell you that, and it's going to come up under one of the other items on our agenda here, that if the town council gives us the final approval on the shore protection, some of these issues are going to be resolved just by the town protecting its public access, because those trees and anything else that is on the public right of way will be gone. Because
I don't disagree on what the arborvitae. I wasn't aware of the timing of those, so that those may be in the purview, but I ultimately am going to defer, like I said, to Dr. LeMay and the council.
Can somebody tell me, and I apologize, I'm very upset. Can somebody tell me why Larry Wall, Chris, Bob, you guys have seen this letter and you're discussing it, and why you're not sharing it with us?
Well, Joe, nobody's not sharing anything with you.
You're not sharing it. I'd like to see it. I'm asking to see the letter.
I sent it to the president of the town council and the president, the chairperson of the building commission. It was addressed to me, and I knew that the Morans were going to be on here, so I didn't want Larry to be caught off guard. And this is a town council, and from there, Joe, I will defer to, again, the decision makers. Nobody's keeping you out of the loop.
Yeah.
I'm requesting to see the letter as a building commission. On the building commission, I'm requesting to see the letter.
Okay.
I'll be happy to forward it.
Thank you.
I'll forward it to the town council and the building commission.
Thank you,
Okay.
Bob.
All right. So the motion's been withdrawn. I think that's it for you, Chris, right, Bob?
I guess, the only other issue again is the trees. I think that is an issue for the building commission. I guess my feeling is that we wouldn't allow anybody else in town to plant trees on town property without permission. I think we should demand that those trees are removed within 2 weeks. If they're not removed in 2 weeks, we should remove them at a cost that, and the homeowner who planted them should be paying for the removal.
And I like,
This is part of the discussions we're having with the town council, so I'm not sure why you keep on coming back to this.
Well,
This is a building commission issue. This isn't a town council
right,
issue.
it's not a town council issue. You cannot, and we say this to everybody that comes before us. The building commission cannot allow anybody to plant, build, construct anything on somebody else's property. If something was put on somebody else's property, it's going to have to be removed unless that person has some agreement with whoever owns that property. I can tell you, and I said this 2 minutes ago, the work that is proposed to protect Stop 23 public access that has been funded already by the town council and approved. The last thing that we're waiting on, I'm quite certain, is just the final number, which may even be in the town council's hands. I'm not sure. This will be a moot point because the trees will be gone, because the work that is going to be done is going to encompass that entire area.
Okay.
There won't be trees there. There won't be any other items there that are on town property that are encroaching on town property, because they will be removed, because the shore protection has to be contiguous to each side of that open area there. So, I mean, if we want to talk about it, we can, but
Can we do this and maybe satisfy a little bit of everything, is have the commission take action that it acknowledges the encroachment and that it's going to order them removed if this thing isn't resolved within.
okay, we can do
That short order is. I mean, the point is made, and there is an encroachment, Dr. LeMay, and so I'm not taking away. Again, you guys can. It's difficult to resolve the other issues if we're just resolving one of them, and you can take the unilateral action to order them removed and then have them removed if there are not. But we have other matters to deal with.
Okay. As long as it's understood that those trees are going to be gone before they have a chance to grow up and obstruct the view from Stop 23, I think, that may be prudent. And I don't pretend to be a lawyer or understand how this all works. I just know how I feel as a citizen of Long Beach.
Yeah, we can't see Chris, but I see the other lawyer laughing.
I didn't mean to laugh.
Okay. All right. Is that it for Chris, Bob?
I don't have anything more, Chris. Is there anything else we need to talk about with you?
Nothing that I have, unless Joe or anybody email me if you need something else, and I'll get something. And I will, Dr. LeMay, I'll send that letter from Mr. Porter to everybody right now.
Okay, if you're going to do that, that'd be great.
wait a minute, this Pete, I've got a question for Chris. In the Perry situation, has the flagpole been removed?
I did not see one there yesterday when we were there.
Okay, and then follow up on that. when somebody puts something on town property, is that not trespass?
Well, I don't know that it's a trespass. It's probably closer to a nuisance, and I am also going to send the building commission out of this, and you guys can consider in the future. There is a state statutory scheme by which you can send notice to a homeowner to bring their property in compliance, including those encroachments. And then if they don't follow within the statutory period, the town can either hire a contractor or remove it itself and put a lien on the property that is superior to everything except taxes. And maybe that'll be some of the teeth that you guys need. So I'm going to send that to you, Pete. It's not really a trespass because it's public, but is it a nuisance and some other things? It is those.
Oh, Chris, can you hang on just 1 second? I just want to ask Bob a question. Bob?
Yep.
Do you want Chris on the phone with us when we do number 19, which talks about paving with the work that they did? Or is that something we'll discuss and then?
No, we don't. No, Chris doesn't need to be on the phone, on the horn with us. If he wants to be, that's fine, but that's not necessary.
Good with that.
Okay,
Have a good weekend.
thanks,
All right,
Chris.
Chris, thanks.
Thanks for your input. Okay, let's get back to our regular agenda here. So first item of business would be to approve the.
Larry, excuse me. Do you want to go through? We never did the roll call or anything else.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
I'm sorry, Larry.
Here, I'm here.
First order is approval of the minutes from the December meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Third.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All same sign. Okay, commissioners report. There were 20 permits issued in December with construction costs of $885,767, which generated fees of $9,935. We received 78 calls on permits and or information requests, and Lou will give us his info, which I can include in the minutes for next month. Any questions on the commissioner's report? That was easy. All right, moving on to old business, number 4, 5, and 6, we've already discussed. Number 7 and 8, I would suggest we table those either to the end of this meeting or till next month so that we can move through everything that we've got going on here. Is everybody okay with that?
Fine.
Okay.
Okay. Number 9, Mr. Rizvi at stop 16. I don't know if where that's at. I thought I saw John on here. He may have. He's traveling. He may be in an airport. He may be off already. Maybe we'll come back to that. Next is the number 10, which is the 3006 permit. And Carl Tungate from JCI dropped plans off, which are revised for, I can screen share them here, just bear with me a second. All right, just a second. Come on. You guys see these now?
Coming up, yep.
Okay.
Yep, there it is.
So did everybody get a chance to look at these yesterday? Carl sent them out electronically to everybody. I know Bob has some hard copies, but I'll kind of go through what we've got going on here. This, where I'm blowing this up here, this is the existing conditions at the site. This where can you guys see? I'm hoping my cursor is moving. Is it?
Yes.
Okay. This is the existing top of the wall. So the history of this project is Mr. Carey and through JCI and Collins Engineering came to us and wanted to install steel sheet piling in line with their existing steel sheet piling and cap it with concrete and put the existing riprap back and enhance that stone riprap with some new stone. The JCI started the work and they found a concrete slab that was in line with this, but below grade. And then they also found where you can see where this line is, there was existing steel sheet piling that was bowed out, much the same as it happened at stop 23 with those seawalls, stop 29 on the Boyce property that we issued the permit last month on, where that seawall is bowed out. That happens for a lot of reasons. Some of it can be that the Whaler and tieback system failed. Some of it can be that there was no Whaler and tieback system. Some of it can be that there was improper drainage. Some of it can be that there was the steel sheet piling wasn't stout enough or strong enough to be what's called cantilevered, which means it's loaded from one side only. So when they got down there, hold on, let me blow this back up. So when they found slab, this concrete, that's not the only thing that's unstable in this group. And this is an approximate line of the bowed steel sheet piling. So JCI tried to, they tried to excavate in front and tried to pull the steel sheet piling, and they were not successful in doing that. So they went back to, I met with Eric and Jack Carey, the owner, on site. And at that time, and I'm sure you all remember at the last meeting, we had the same discussion. At that time, I said, I think you guys probably have three options. One is you can, or they had actually talked about a couple of options. And then I said, I think it's one of three. One, you put back what you already have. This was before the concrete was removed in the steel sheet piling. You put back what you have, build on top of the existing concrete, put the stone in and call it a day. That's option number one. Number two, they talked about putting the steel sheet piling out in front of, this is the line of the existing wall. You put the steel sheet piling out in front of where you would propose to do it, or you put the steel sheet piling back behind where you'd propose to do it. At the time, I said, I don't think that the building commission is going to be able to approve putting the seawall, the steel sheet piling out further north or towards the lake. I don't think that we're just able to do that without a variance. So they went back to Collins Engineering, and this is what they've come up with. So, and I'll ask Carl to get on here in a second, but I want to give you guys kind of the basics of this. So this is the existing concrete. This is the proposed new concrete on top of a new steel sheet piling wall, which I'll show you here in a second. This is the new steel sheet piling. these dashed lines are the approximate locations of the failed or bowed steel sheet piling. Hold on, I don't know if the section's here. Maybe it's on the next sheet. So what they're proposing is, see this piece? This is an approximation of what the failed steel sheet piling is. So what they're proposing, this section right here would be in line with their existing concrete cap. This wall and this concrete cap on top of this new steel sheet piling is where my cursor is moving up and down. So what they're asking is, they're proposing to cut the failed steel sheet piling off back to a point where they would drive new steel sheet piling, put a substantial footing on top of that, put a slope wall, no, I'm sorry, not a slope wall, put a wall on top of that footing basically, and then pour a slab that was in the same line as their existing slab. And then this section is the armor stone or riprap, shot rock, whatever you want to call it, that they would put in front of the new work that they've done. So, I know that's a lot of discussion that maybe, you guys can certainly ask questions, but the reality of what they're asking for, see where this 3 foot 3 inch dimension is? They're asking to put the steel sheet piling 3 foot, approximately, let's say 3 foot 3 inches further towards the lake than what we had given them a permit for originally. So they would cut this failing steel sheet piling off. This is the front end. They know where this is. I don't think, and Carl, I'm going to ask you, I don't think you know where this is, do you?
Not exactly, but we've driven a few test sheets behind the wall to see how far back that wall would have to be behind. And I think it was somewhere in the magnitude of maybe 8 or 9 feet behind that wall is where we could finally get the sheets to go down. So we feel that slope back, and it's 3 or so feet in front of that wall, and it extends back, 7, 8, 9 feet or something behind the front face of the existing wall. So that whole area there's like steel that we can't get through, and we're getting into the water table also. That's why we can only cut about 2 to 3 feet of that existing steel out, because we're getting underwater.
So, Carl, I kind of, described it in general terms, but that's pretty much what you're proposing, right?
Right, yeah. So we're just trying to cut that existing steel seawall that's there, cut it back a couple, 2 to 3 feet, so that we can drive the sheets in that existing line where those old sheets were at, and that's all going to be below grade when we're done. Then we're coming back that 3 foot to actually put that concrete wall up in line with the other wall. So visually, and what's exposed will match what's there now. It's just, we just need to bump the stuff that's below grade out a little bit to get past what has failed, the wall that's failed there, because we can't get where we were hoping to originally.
So when I look at this diagram that's right here, I see the concrete with the horizontal and the vertical slabs. That's going to be sitting on top of a seawall, admittedly buried a little bit, that is bowed out already. Is that right?
No. This piece right here, Pete, that I'm at an angle.
Yeah.
That's the bowed out piece. This
right.
crosshash section, they're going to cut this off. This, where you see dashed lines with the solid lines on either side of it, they're proposing to drive new steel sheet piling down, 25-foot long sheets, and then capping that below grade, and then building a wall. This would really be more or less a footing, and then they would build a wall back up to this grade right here, which is the grade that their existing concrete wall is at. And this section would match existing concrete, which I'll roll up to. So see this section here?
Yeah.
That's the existing concrete. This is the new steel sheet piling here. The old steel sheet piling is this dashed line. This section that you see right here, this little narrow section, I can't read that dimension. I can't see if that's 9 inches, but we'll look down here. Actually, it's 17 inches. But this piece is here. This section is here.
Yeah, I got it. I got it. But
Okay.
scroll up again.
Okay.
So I see where the new seawall is going to be driven 3 feet farther than it is now. Yes?
Yes, that's correct.
So, and so that's number one issue. The number two issue is the rubble. Now, how far out does that stick? How that's an additional 7 feet plus or minus, or what am I reading there?
Yes,
Well,
that's 7 feet from the face of this wall, which is, Carl, isn't this the existing, same as the existing wall?
Correct. That's in the same plane as the existing wall, and that 7 feet is what was originally permitted. So we're not proposing to push the rock out any further. Those limits are based on the ordinary high water mark. Those are staying as is. It's just and with the wall being back in line with the other one, you know, we still have that same amount of rock. It's just sitting on top of our footer and the sheets that are all buried.
So what they're asking for, Pete, is to go 3 foot, approximately 3'3" north or lakeward of what we permitted before with the steel sheet piling.
But
Isn't that what we said no to last time?
Well, you know, I hate to say this, Bob, I can't remember all the discussion from last time. We didn't have this hadn't been done yet. I think it was more of a discussion mode of, you know, what we can and cannot approve.
Right.
So now they've actually, because we said at the last meeting, you know, we can't design it or tell you what you need to come to us and say, well, you know, this is what we want to do. So, you know, that's what they've done. And to the best of my abilities, they're asking they're asking from what we originally permitted to go 3'3" approximately. Let's say it's maybe 3'6", maybe 3 foot even further towards the lake with the steel sheet piling. Everything else would be maintained at the same as what we permitted before.
Sounds to me like a job for the Board of Zoning Appeals.
so help me with why the boulders have to be there. Is that stuff that's already there?
There was,
Just
yes,
replacing it?
there was riprap. There was a riprap retention. Yeah, I don't know. I'm losing my mind.
Yeah, there was an existing riprap armament there. The rocks there have started to deteriorate some. So they're starting to break apart. And so I mean, that was kind of part of the project, was to reinforce that, get a good seawall there, and then replace those existing deteriorating stones with new rock.
But it's above 584, right?
Yes.
Yes.
If you look at this where I've scrolled up to now, this 584 is here. the stone, hold on, I think we can pull it up on this one.
586 or so
Yeah.
to 587 is where the stone's at.
This line is 586 here. Each one of these lines is 1 foot. So 586, 587, then they've got the,
I didn't understand that.
it's all right, I didn't either, honey. So yes, the 584 line is out here.
So what's the altitude that the Army Corps says the natural ordinary high water mark is?
They came back to us at
584.
584 on the I can't remember what project it was. Remember when they came up and they sent the report to us?
Yep.
And they went over Whiting and they came here and then that was their determination at that point in time was 584. It was right when we had the Delterra mark.
So based on that, I think it's approvable.
So it's above the natural ordinary high water mark, is that correct?
Yes.
And the revetment that's going to be augmented, is that all above the natural ordinary high water mark also?
Yes. See where my arrow is, Bob?
Mm-hmm.
This 584 is right here. That's what the Army Corps says that the high water mark is.
Okay.
This dark line here is the extent of the revetment. That's why, as Carl said, that's why the stone is being placed here rather than down.
I see.
Coming out here.
Okay.
Larry?
So as far as I can tell, it looks approvable to me, but I do have one just procedural question. When is the 584 measured? I mean, are we one storm away from it being 580?
According to the Army,
that's not appropriate for this, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah, the Army Corps says they're going to check it every couple years, but more often if there's drastic changes in lake level.
Yes, Pete, to answer your question, it's as we all know. I mean, if you walk down in front of Stop 23 where all those walls have been replaced, right now there's probably, I have a picture from yesterday or day before, there's probably, oh, Bob, you walk it all the time. What is there, 6-8 feet of sand in front of those walls?
There is, you can actually walk in front of those now.
Right, so, but, we get one storm without shore protection or shore ice, and the water could be 4 feet deep at those walls. So
well, based on what I see, I make a motion to approve this.
Can I ask questions first, Pete?
I don't care.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm trying to. I was trying to be polite. Larry, could you move up a little bit with your diagram?
In my seat, you want me to move up here? Yeah.
That's good. I'd like to see your smiling face. All right, go up all the way. Okay, now. This is the diagram. Let me see. Yeah, right about there. Now go up one more. Let me see if it's the other one. I'm trying to get my bearings of the existing seawall. Stop on that. Maybe that's good. The existing seawall. Now, when we look there, Larry, where you have this point where you have the field point, that's stop. Yeah, go up a hair with you. No, leave it there and just move your cursor up. All right, over to this dot right here, this big black over here on right there. Okay, now if you stay there for a second. Now my first question is, on that line, is that where the original seawall was put in vertically? So it was perfectly vertical at one point in time on that line. Am I looking at the existing seawall correctly?
Yes, that that where you see that triangle that my cursor's on, where
Right.
this says that means found magnesium nail.
Right, I understand.
So
I know I'm not an engineer, but I'm trying
I
hard.
understand. Hold on, let me finish. So that is, appears to me that was put on the existing seawall before Carey's bought the property years ago because they found this nail. And then that was the property line. But the existing steel sheet piling this is a concrete cap that is, Carl, help me out here. What is this, 4 feet wide?
I think it's about 5, I believe.
Okay, so this is an existing concrete cap that's 5 feet wide. Underneath this, and I know what your question is, it's just I want to make sure that I'm answering it properly. Underneath this is steel sheet piling that was driven vertically. This steel sheet piling, I mean, unless it was driven by my grandkids, well, even they would probably do a better job. But this steel sheet piling was driven horizontally as well, but it failed at some point in time.
Vertically or horizontally, Larry?
Sorry, vertically.
Okay, so it was driven vertically, correct?
Yes, we assume so.
Okay, at some point between those two parallel lines, there was sheet piling that was vertical.
Yes.
Right in there. Okay, now, and again, an education for someone like myself, which we've seen at bus stop 23 and bus stop 22, when we have the vertical sheet piling, and what it normally does, which it's showing here, if we go towards the lake, that the sheet piling is leaning towards the lake.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, then, but what is all this other sheet piling that's Lakeshore Drive side? Because the toe of the seawall should be within those parallel lines. And as it's leaning towards the lake, what is this other sheet piling back there?
You mean here?
Yes.
Well, as Carl had mentioned, they probed. Carl, you can maybe jump in here. They probed or drove something down here to try to figure out where the back of this was, so that they could advise the owner or Collins, hey, we can either drive new steel sheet piling here, or we can do what they're proposing now and cut this off.
All right, let me just try to get you what I'm confused about. That is the toe, if using that terminology, the toe of the seawall originally was a vertical structure, and the toe was in the sand someplace, and it was between these two parallel lines. Now, what we're saying, I think, is then that seawall start leaning towards the lake. I can understand that. But then wouldn't the toe of that seawall, it can't lean two different directions. Wouldn't the toe of that seawall still remain within these two parallel lines? What is the sheet piling behind?
Well,
Joe, I mean, we have no idea how it's like that. I mean, we were way perplexed at that too. What you're saying is pretty accurate. I don't know how the toes of those got back that far. I don't know. I don't know. That's why we were way confused why we just couldn't go back behind where that concrete slab was and drive some sheets there and make it work.
Exactly. That's what thank you, sir. That's what I was thinking. Why that wouldn't work.
Yeah, I don't know, but we've tried to drive sheets. I mean, we did that for a day to go back to see how far. And obviously that's the homeowner's concern, is to, if you go back that 10 feet or so to get behind there, and build the wall there, you got to come back on the side, and then you got to match into your neighbors, and he's losing real estate. So that's why we're trying to build this thing, below grade, out right in front of what's there now. Nobody will see the sheet wall that's down below the armor stone. and then we come back with that concrete wall and build it in the same plane as what's there. So it to everybody walking on the beach, it's the same as what's adjacent to it.
Now, Larry, you know this stuff. I obviously don't. Is it that possible that the toe of the seawall's leaning towards the lake, and then down at the bottom, at the toe of the seawall can kick itself out and go towards Lakeshore Drive?
No.
Something doesn't logically make sense here.
Well, it's impossible for anyone to know what happened. And I guess maybe answering your question, was this steel sheet piling, let's see where my cursor is moving?
Yes.
Let's say that this is the line. Was this steel sheet piling driven vertically from here straight up? And then over the course of whatever number of years, it failed this far out? You know, is that possible? It probably is possible. It's unusual. I think what you're asking is, and you've seen it at 23, and the same thing down at the Boyce property. You know, the Boyce property in 1964 had that bow in that seawall. It has gotten worse in the last whatever number of years, 54 years, but the toe of that wall hasn't moved. So depending on who put this in, I mean.
So Larry, what you're saying is the possibility that could be the toe of the seawall back at that point.
Well, that's what they're telling us here.
No, back where you went, where it says approximate location of existing failed seawall with that arrow.
Yes.
That could be the toe.
That's what they're telling us.
Are they saying that? I didn't think they were saying that.
Yes.
I thought we said that the toe of the seawall was in those two parallel lines in the front.
Well, we know that this seawall is in there. When I went down there the day and met with Eric, Carl's partner down there, and Mr. Carey, they had an excavator, I don't know, probably sitting right here, and they had moved the armor stone, and they had excavated down. They had already approached the water table. This steel sheet piling was laid out. It was severe, and I've seen a lot of failed walls, but this was probably one of the worst. So was this where my cursor is now, which is the top of the wall? Was this at some point? Well, hold on, let me back up. Then there was concrete poured on top of this failed steel sheet piling wall. I don't think that concrete was poured when the wall was built. And Carl, maybe you can talk about this.
But wait a minute. The issue is that approximate location of existing failed seawall. JCI has done test drives or something back to that point, and it's at that point that they found that they can't hit the seawall anymore. If they were to drive a vertical seawall, they'd be okay. But that's 10 feet upstream of where they want to be.
Yes.
But they've done test drivings all that way back and assume that that's the line, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's something in there. Maybe it's two seawalls for all we know. But you can't drive anything vertically between that approximate location and the end that's where it's looks like it's splayed out.
Peter, I understand that. What my point is, and what our ordinance is, that we should put the seawall behind the existing seawall. And I don't know for sure, like nobody does, but right where it says approximate location of existing failed seawall, that could be the foot or the toe of the seawall. And therefore our ordinance would tell us that the new seawall has to be behind that seawall.
But isn't that, when I said this had to go to the BZA before, I was not aware that what they wanted to do was above the natural ordinary high water mark. if they can put a seawall in above the natural ordinary watermark as long as, you know, they meet the other criteria. And it sounds to me like they do.
So
Am I?
we're saying I'm misunderstanding the ordinance. I thought the ordinance was that if you're replacing a seawall, you can only remove and replace the seawall behind the existing seawall.
And is that the case whether it's above or below the natural ordinary high water mark?
I don't think it's ever mentioned above or below the natural ordinary high water mark.
Yeah, you may have a point there.
Bob, you're probably the most well-versed on that shore protection ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
The Stop 23 permits were issued based on a legally existing wall when it was installed can be repaired or replaced
Right.
directly behind it.
Yeah.
So
not lakeward.
And that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, Joe, you're right. It doesn't really make a difference if it's above or below, does it?
And the only thing I'm saying is that we're not just talking about 3 feet. We're talking about a pretty good distance. If that, and I don't know the facts. I'm just, if that's the toe, whatever word we're using, where the seawall originally was put in vertically at that arrow approximate location, that's more than 3 feet. That's quite a bit. Now, logically, do you think it should have been there? Probably not. I don't know. It's a puzzle, but that's all I'm saying.
well, I think the seawalls at Stop 23, the illegally existing wall part of that ordinance was used because they were beyond the natural ordinary high water mark.
But it doesn't, Joe's right. It doesn't really make a distinction in the ordinance whether that existing seawall is above or below the natural ordinary water mark. It specifically says, shall not be lakeward of an existing seawall. So I think Joe's actually, I've gone both ways now, but I think Joe's convinced me that lakeward is not something we can approve.
Can I chime in here? This is Jack Carey.
Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Above that, like Larry was saying, above the splayed out wall, steel was a cement wall, which was beyond our current wall by about 6 or 7 feet. So there was a cement wall, which we have pictures of, and Larry saw the area down there, that there was a cement wall on top of this, of the splayed out steel piling. So we took that out, and this plan is all within the boundaries of our original plan. We didn't go beyond what our original plan says. The only one difference on this whole plan is the cap that's below grade. In order to get out in front of the splayed out, steel piling, but it's still behind what was there originally from the cement wall. There was a cement cap on top of that. It's still both behind that. That's why we have to cut off the 3 feet of that piling, because that's where it matched up with the wall. So now we're behind the original wall that was there. We're still within the footprint of our original plans that was approved. It's just how we considered the underneath the land below grade is different.
So, Mr. Carey or Larry, where was this concrete? Can you run your cursor along that?
Where
was the cursor? Where's the concrete?
So here's what I think happened. This steel sheet piling here that's splayed out, at some point in time failed. And rather than try to either pull the steel sheet piling, pull meaning extract it, and drive new steel sheet piling, somebody came along and formed a concrete slab on top of this steel that was failing to try to stop it from getting worse. That was below grade. JCI didn't know that that was there. They didn't even know that the steel sheet piling was there because they were expecting to remove the stone, the riprap revetment, and drive steel sheet piling in this. Pardon me, it's not working here. In this line, from the existing wall, the proposal was to drive steel sheet piling here, and then cap it with concrete to match this. So when they started excavating, they found that this concrete slab that Jack just talked about was buried. And now, okay, what do we do now? Then they found underneath that concrete was this splayed out wall, or this failing wall. So that's what led to this whole situation here. The original plan, steel sheet piling was going to go from here. This is existing, and it was going to continue right across straight through here, and the concrete was going to be poured on here.
Right.
And I'm not, I'm not disagreeing with anything anybody said. The reality of what, my opinion, what they're asking for is the difference between what we approved and what they would like to do is this steel sheet piling right here. On our original, we approved that steel sheet piling to be driven here, straight underneath this concrete area here.
Yeah.
So they're asking us to allow them to put the steel sheet piling approximately 3 foot north of where it's at, or where it was.
Okay, I understand that. Mr. Carey implied or stated that there was concrete, at least the way I understood it, that there was concrete on this particular drawing, a concrete seawall or something placed to the left on this drawing or lakeward.
Okay, so
concrete.
I'm sorry, Pete. I probably should have used this drawing. So when I went down there and looked at this, what these guys had found was they didn't know that this was here.
Right.
And they didn't know that on top of this, there was a concrete slab that was poured that was probably, 3 foot thick, maybe 4 foot thick by 4 or 5 feet wide. It was, this is their existing yard grade right now. That concrete.
I understand that, but the concrete,
right?
The concrete slab that was pulled out was above that crosshatched area.
Yes, it was on top of that. I think what happened is when this started to fail, somebody came in and formed a concrete slab here over this steel sheet piling to stop it from getting worse.
So in effect, the concrete that they want to pour and the sheet piling they want to drive is within the boundary of where the concrete slab was before. And I mean by boundary, it's from their short up to the street.
Yes.
So that to me, the only thing that's being added that extends beyond that is the rubble. The sheet piling they want to drive is within the boundary, the northern boundary of where it was before.
Not where the sheet piling was, Larry.
No, but there's a concrete cap.
Right.
There was a seawall. There was a seawall.
Yes, Pete, that's correct. They didn't know it was there. We didn't know it was there. Nobody knew it was there, but it was there. They found it. They had hoped to just come in, dry steel sheet piling straight down here and pour this cap on top of it. It was actually a little thicker than this with a thickened slab edge and be done with it. And that
right. Yeah, I understand that. I don't care about that. And I don't mean to be flip, but the important thing to me is that where they're proposing to drive the sheet pile seawall is in the same plane or even shoreward of where a seawall existed before.
Yes.
Okay. So that in effect, the rubble is a revetment. That's the portion that extends beyond anything that existed before. Any vertical structure, yes?
Probably so, yes.
Well, in that regard, I still think it's provable.
And is that splayed out sheet piling, is that on a calm day underwater?
Yes.
It's, some of it is, yeah, it's underwater because it's under the water table.
And is the concrete slab, or was the concrete slab that was on top of that, was that underwater on a calm day too?
I can't tell you. Oh yeah, you could, what you didn't, nobody knew it was there.
And is it like underground? I mean, is there sand over it? Is that?
Yeah, there was sand over the top. They had to remove stone and excavate sand down to that concrete slab.
So I guess, it kind of just begs the question, how far do we go back and how deep do you go to define an existing seawall? I mean, at some point, a seawall that's underground, underwater, ceases to be a seawall anymore, right?
No, there's a lot of walls, especially from stop 20 east, or pardon me, west, or it's not, probably stop 20 west, that are still buried. And that came up quite a bit in discussions over the last year. That's what I've spent probably 80% of my time meeting with after the catastrophic stuff that happened early on last year. Was people wanted to immediately drive new steel sheet piling, put riprap in. And I had explained to them, just because I've lived here long enough and I knew, because we had done a lot of work down in those areas, that there were seawalls that were buried. Some of them are still buried. Some of them may still be 4 or 5 feet below the sand grade. But if the sand continues to be eroded, they'll come and they protect the property. I mean, this stop 29, the Lyons property, I had explained to Chris Lyons at one point in time, I said, Chris, you have an existing
Please unlock your device first.
You have an existing seawall. You just have never seen it because you haven't been here long enough to see that. And let's say that Jack, didn't have JCI in to do this, and we had a couple of storms. They would have seen this. They would have seen all of a sudden the sand would have been eroded away from the stone that was there, and they probably would have seen the concrete.
Everything at stop 29 that existed along that slab and that what's known as the old Corps of Engineers seawall, that was all underground. Nobody really knew where that was.
Right. Right. That's exactly right, Pete. So, I can tell you that in the 54 years that I've lived here, I didn't know that the east of or west of Carey's property, that was Lyden's property when we were kids, but was a seawall. I never knew that.
Okay.
So I'm going to make a motion to approve this.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
No,
Do I have to ask who that was?
No,
Okay.
Aye.
Okay. You guys are all set, Carl and Jack. Now, we because of COVID, we don't have, we're not printing the cards, but Joe will have a number assigned to you guys. I don't know when you want to get back down there. Or you already have a permit, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right, I'm going to pull this drawing off.
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
you bet. number 11, stop 29 corrected drawings. Those really, there's nothing to discuss on that. The stop 23, public access, we did receive the engineering back. I believe the pricing has been submitted to the town council.
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, I'll double check on that.
Larry, when do we see the proposal for what they're going to do?
As soon as the town council sees it, then you'll have it. I mean, we'll have it, pardon me. I had sent the one off that was the one with the stairs in it, but that was just too expensive.
How much, do you know how much it was, Larry?
I know it was 60% more material to add those stairs in there, Pete. And
I mean, what was the total that's been submitted?
I think it's in the 350 range.
And that's for which stop?
23.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Larry, while we're just talking about money, I was just curious, did we ever come up with a cost for stop 21, our part and the part next door of the private property people? I've never seen a number for that.
Yes, Joe, there has been, and I don't know how that, off the top of my head, Joe, I don't know the split. I can get it for you. I'll make a note of that right here.
Okay, because I've never, Pete, you haven't seen that, have you?
No.
Right. We need that for the budget.
Okay. Number 13, we already talked about. Number 14, 1901 Lake Shore. Lou, I'm not sure what the story is with this. Do you have any input on this 1901 Lake Shore?
Yeah, they're tabling the project. Once they found out that the new parking space didn't comply with existing ordinances, and therefore the old parking spaces would be reviewed as well. They realized it was a can of worms, and they're not going to do a thing about it. They're just so it's tabled. Take it off the agenda.
Okay.
All right, Larry.
Yeah.
Just a comment. I shared it with Lou yesterday. I think it is that for that property. Now, I'm not talking about this parking space. What we did at that property, we approved demolition of the inside of that home a while ago. And what I haven't seen yet is, because we approved the demolition, we haven't approved anything for the inside of the house, what he's going to do. And I would hope we get to see some plans before he tries to rebuild the inside of the house.
Yeah, I've talked to Wilson about this. He knows that he has yet to submit plans. They're still doing demo, but they are doing windows. So he's late, and we need to. He knows after a discussion yesterday that plans will be forthcoming with the new application.
This is Wilson?
Yeah.
Okay. Check that every day.
Yes, sir.
I'm not being facetious.
Oh,
I believe you.
I know. We unfortunately, we all in this business know.
If there's one nail driven in, I think we should issue a stop work order before we get a plan.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's it for old business. Moving on to new business. 2024 Golden Gate Drive. I did not see that come through Deanna's stuff. I'm going to look for it right now, but did anybody see that new stuff come in?
I have not. I just made a trip yesterday to pick up everything at the town center, and I did not see anything.
I thought I saw Shannon on here.
Yeah, I'm on here. It was J&B West had emailed it due to Deanna on Tuesday. and I believe they contacted her due to someone being out and not knowing how to use the portal to upload. So they contacted Deanna, and she said an email would be acceptable. I'm speaking on behalf of JMB, so I might be rephrasing it. But what I can explain is that last month we were declined due to the coverage of our existing 51% makes us a non-compliant lot. And as we talked about, we are changing the front entry, increasing the square footage at 120 square feet. We worked with the Cook County Assessor, the LaPorte County Assessor, the LaPorte County Recorder, and LaPorte County Treasurer, and we set back the property 4 feet by our 74-foot rear. So that increases our current property by 296 additional square feet. So even with adding the front decking, we will go down in overall coverage. And for those that may not know, we own the property behind 2024 Golden Gate. So that gave us the ability to set that property line back by the 4 feet to allow us not to increase our coverage. Having spoke to Lou, he said that was the non-compliant portion, is that we cannot increase our current coverage.
Could I ask you a quick question? And I'd like to see what we got from LaPorte. But by taking the 4 feet off of the property in the back, did you make that property non-conforming?
Well, I did not have an appraisal done on the back property, so I cannot speak to that. But in looking at the property, Joe, I can tell you most likely that property was already non-conforming based on the home itself already on that lot.
So you can't.
It's not a vacant lot, Shannon. It's a house on it.
It is a house on it. Yeah, it's the old Lesk property for those that may know the beach area. 2005 Lawndale.
Well, Joe's point. I think the reason for Joe's question at his point is you can't increase one lot and make another lot more non-conforming. I obviously, I know you sent me an email. That's why I was looking for it. I haven't seen anything from Deanna or from the county. So, hey, Bob, would you take over here for a second and keep this moving?
So yeah, I guess we have to have a permit application from Deanna, an altered permit application from Deanna to consider this, right?
It was actually sent to Larry. So from Deanna to Larry, I'm sorry, it could be Bob, but it's BIDGINSPLM@gmail. Copied in Joe at Building. Copied in Bob LeMay. Copied in John Coker to.
Who did it come
Joy
from?
Schmidt.
Who did it come from?
What's the
From
date?
Deanna.
What is the date?
Tuesday. Oh, sorry. Wait, I take it back. That was the previous one, November 10th. Sorry. Okay, this only went to Deanna. I apologize. So the revised permit application for 2024 only went to Deanna.
And what day did it go on?
On Tuesday as well, this week.
Okay, so maybe all right, we'll have to look at it. But I think that there is a definite issue that you can't take from one to the other if you're going to make the other one smaller.
And I'm sorry, I don't know where I was addressing the 2024 Golden Gate.
I understand, but what I'm saying is, anyway, we'll get the ordinance. You can't. It's illegal to make another property smaller when it's non-conforming.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to see that permit, and I'm not quite sure why Deanna didn't forward it to us.
Because I'm the bingo person on this call every month.
I'm sorry, what?
I said, because I'm the bingo player on this call every month. I think that's what Larry called me last time. We never seem to make the meeting.
Well, I guess I don't understand. So you sent Deanna a completed permit, a revised permit.
Yes, J&B West sent it, correct.
Well, J&B West sent it.
Yes, on our behalf.
Okay, well.
And then I did phone Larry and Lou just to give them the heads up that it was submitted. So I didn't want to catch everybody by surprise again.
All right, but, okay. So there's stuff we have to look into, obviously.
Yeah, I think we have to understand exactly what you want to do. You did send a site plan along with that, right?
We did. Yep. We're going back to adding a front entrance deck, which again was decking of 120 square feet. But because we're already currently a non-conforming lot, because our existing lot coverage is at 51%, we were informed last month we could not increase the coverage of the square feet.
Right.
So by setting back the property, I could have gone as small as 2 feet. I would have covered the 120 square feet, right? It's a 74 wide back rear property line. So
Right.
I really only needed to cover the 120 square feet added deck.
Right. So you're saying you wanted to move the property line back to make your property bigger.
We did, yes. We contacted them just to help us offset that 120 square feet.
And you did that through the LaPorte County Assessor's Office?
Yeah, well, we went through both the
Surveyor's Office.
Yes. Three departments actually it took to have it completed, correct. So the assessor worked through the recorder, who worked through the treasurer, who we had to pay.
So I think.
What did that do to the lot behind it? Did that make the lot behind it non-conforming?
It sounds like, Joy, from what Shannon said, that she thinks that lot is non-conforming anyway, but the ordinance is such that you can't subdivide a lot and increase the non-conformity of another lot.
Yeah. So,
and that happened, it stopped 21, I forget, Bob, when that happened, but
yeah.
I guess, Shannon, what I'm going to ask, number one, is we'll have to get with Deanna. I did get your email that you had sent to me. And I did look for yesterday and or Wednesday. I looked for the stuff from Deanna, hoping that we would have it, but I have not seen it. And I don't know if you guys rectified that while I was gone, but and I know I hate to have you keep coming back to the well, but unfortunately, we can't make a decision without a survey and the paperwork.
And we have talked to the assessor's office in the past and asked them if somebody wants to change lot lines, that they need to talk to us because we don't want this situation happening. Apparently, they didn't do that.
Pete, weren't you involved in or had some hand in something about subdivisions and what's allowed and what's not? Or Joy, maybe you did.
Yeah, and you can't make a lot non-conforming, or you can't increase the non-conformity of any lot.
Yeah, correct.
I don't know what the square footage. The first question would be, by lopping off a piece of the other lot, is that now a non-conforming either property or by that I mean square footage, or is that non-conforming? Does it make any portion of the house non-conforming, or does the house already exist as non-conforming? So I was just looking at the map here, and it looks like the property on Lawndale is already over 35%.
I would agree.
And and then I there's also the issues of, side setbacks and things like that. So that might be a problem on the Golden Gate property. You can't. It's not just square footage, but if you're making changes to a footprint on a property that's non-conforming in any way, you've got to get it approved.
All right, so we don't know where the mystery paperwork is at, or we think Deanna has it or has gotten it.
I'll follow up with Deanna to get the paperwork.
All right.
Okay? I will make that my mission.
All right.
And then may I ask if maybe some guidance, Mr. Biblitz, to your point, if there are other issues beyond the coverage that can be explained, because I left last meeting thinking that it was coverage was the issue. Again, and not knowing any other bylaws over non-conforming, conforming of what impact it has to the 2005 Lawndale. I'm just trying to move forward, as you guys can imagine, on a front entranceway change, right? With a roof and siding ultimately. And so trying to accommodate the coverage now has created other challenges, but I won't know how to address those because I may just run into more challenges.
So I thought we left it last time that you wanted to put a new roof on right away. And I thought
I thought
we approved that.
No, I haven't gotten approved because the roof is an overhang, which creates shadow, creates coverage.
Yeah.
And that was ultimately the circle that we're back into is I can't put the roof on because of the overhangs because of shadow.
Well, I guess probably the easiest way to put it, Shannon, is I don't know that I understood that you were going to take property from the lot behind you and add it to yours to try to get into get away from the coverage situation. The issue there comes in, we don't want to have an issue, and even if, let's say you go to sell the property, which has happened here, and somebody calls us and says, hey, can we do this? And we say, no, you can't because you're non-conforming. And they go back to you and say, well, I'm not going to buy this because it's non-conforming. And then you'd be upset that we didn't tell you, hey, you made a property non-conforming. So, the easiest way to do this from what you just described to me is to give to...
Time and time again, the mainstream press has been dead wrong when it comes to the stock market. From the dot-com blow up...
John, you checking your investments?
John, give us a tip, John. What are we going to buy?
You don't want to buy anything right now.
All right. Thanks, John.
Sorry.
It sounds like the best thing to happen is look at number one, your own property, which we've already looked at. But we don't want you to create a problem for your second property that you're going to have to deal with down the road. And by ordinance, we can't. And I'm not sure if that's the APC, and that's why I asked Pete, because I know that the issues come up before with this creating or doing subdivisions and creating non-conforming lots by subdividing something. And I have been very clear for most anybody that's asked or everybody that's asked me in the last several years, no, you can't subdivide and make, somebody owns a property that's 18,000 square feet and they want to subdivide a section off. And so they're going to have two non-conforming lots because
I can appreciate that, but I think we're beginning with two non-conforming lots. The 35%, unless I bulldoze, I couldn't even rebuild a 1-bedroom that's probably less than 35% of the size of the lot that these are, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely correct. That's why we don't want you to increase the nonconformity of one lot to move to the other lot to try to do something that isn't going to work anyway.
Right. I'm just looking for a way to add 120 square feet of overhang and shadow to help, put the front entrance on the front of the house that's decking. It's not concrete. It's not, water runs through it. So it's not a water issue. I was trying to find a way without having to come to the Board of Appeals to get a front deck on the front of the house.
Right. Maybe an air coverage don't count water or percolation. It's a coverage issue because the rules are such that they don't want to see people increase coverage to the point where they turn front yards into parking lots because, it's permeable pavers.
I agree.
So that's why the water issue is not really, we don't look at it that way. But even all those things aside, we still don't have the paperwork that you submitted, whether it's stuck in the town's cloud or it's stuck in JB West cloud. I don't know. But I can tell you that I looked over the last 3 days since I got your email. I've looked every day for it.
Just one thing, I don't know if it makes any difference to you, Shannon, but if you wanted to put a roof on it and you wanted to re-roof it just as it is and put new tar paper and new shingles, that's legit. You can do that. But
yes, I understand. Right. It's adding overhangs if the house has a flat front. Again, I'd like the overhangs. It keeps the water from running down the side of the house. Also adds a little curb appeal. Also, it's new siding that goes along with it. And to do the siding.
I understand.
So it's more than just, a simple roof. I think we turned in the $150,000 improvement for a permit that was received by Long Beach. I don't know where, how that plays out. At least JMB has. So just waiting on trying to move forward and find a way to do that.
I understood. And the only answer is, as I see it right now, is the Board of Zoning Appeals. Because we don't have the authority to override an ordinance. As much as we'd like to, some people would like to, we can't.
But Shannon, you might be wise to make sure we get the completed permit so we understand exactly what you want to do. And then we can hopefully spell out for you what the problems are with your permit application so that you know what to ask the Board of Zoning Appeals for. Because if you ask them for, say, I want to increase my lot coverage, and there's an issue with side setback, then you could come back to us and we could say, you know what, the side setback's a problem. You need to go back to them. So you want to get it all done once if you have to go to the BZA.
I appreciate that. And I do believe that the email throughout this board commissioner has that outlined. I have not seen it. It was brought up in last month's meeting that we submitted in November, and in November, an email circulated amongst the building commissioner of maybe our challenges, which again, my only note was coverage. So if that could be shared, I would appreciate that.
Well, why don't you find out where the paperwork is. Find out if it's at JB West or if it's at the town center. Joe's going to check. Okay. Joe's going to check with Deanna, and if you could make sure that JB West has I could tell you historically, Deanna does not take building permit applications by email. They're always hand carried and stamped in by her by hand. Not to say that she didn't make an exception here, but that's usually been what happens with the clerk's office.
Okay. Yeah, and again, I can only speak for what I was forwarded the email by JMB that said it was submitted. That's all I can go by as well.
Okay.
So, all right. Well, I'll talk to you all next month.
Okay. Thanks, Shannon. Okay, 16, 2007 Oriole Trail, Chris Cleary's permit for a new home. Actually, Joe and I were talking earlier today. There actually is no permit. There is just drawings.
Yeah, there's no permit application yet.
Okay, so we'll take that off the list until we get a permit from him. Number 17 was 2002 Somerset, the Honer edition. That went through the BZA. They were approved at the BZA level, and they have submitted their paperwork to Deanna. And there's no change from what they asked the BZA for, at least that I can see. So
Larry,
yeah,
just roughly reading it quickly, and I have to spend a little more time on it. They did say what I'm reading from the BZA, and that we need a little work on this. I'm reading from the BZA, and it says petitioners request development standard variance for the purpose of remodeling their home and building a permanent 3 seasons room located at the front and an addition on the east side of their existing home. That's what it looks like they're requesting to do. The first thing that I read, and I haven't gone through everything, the first thing I read on their building permit application that they submitted is removal of 3-season room, replaced with addition of dining room, foyer, den, front porch, etc. I don't know if that's one and the same thing. It says they wanted to create a permanent 3-season room. Now on the permit, they're asking to replace it with other stuff. I'd have to look at size and everything else, Larry.
Right. They were encroaching on their setbacks, and if I remember correctly, I don't have the paperwork in front of you. If I remember correctly, it was also a coverage issue, and the BZA approved that. What their proposal is to make a room that was like a porch, permanent room. Whether they call it a dining room or porch or whatever, that's kind of up to them.
All right.
I think we're good.
There's no reason for us not to approve this.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
President,
Oh, Joe, you fouled me up.
I got to read through this, Larry. I don't know if it's that simple of what we're saying.
Okay. Number 18, Joe and I talked this morning. He does not have the paperwork for this. I'll have to.
Which is number 18? Read out what it is.
2208 Castleton, the shed permit, McCusker.
It's 2308, Larry.
Or is it 2308?
Yeah, and we went through that already. Lou, are you still with us?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, this one is that shed, and we denied this before, didn't we, Lou?
This is on Castleton?
Yeah, they went to the Board of Zoning Appeals and were denied.
They were denied for one issue, and then the second issue, they gave them a an approval of. But
Do we have a copy of that BZA?
no, we're going to have to ask him to send all that in.
Right.
Yeah.
I expected that he had that all sent in. Joe told me that he does not.
Not on the second go around.
So they've sent a second, so they were denied at the BZA and they've sent us another permit application. Is that right?
Well, no.
We don't have it yet.
We don't have it yet.
Okay.
So after talking to Joe, I probably should have taken this off.
Okay.
So Larry, but just to make sure, it's 2308, am I right?
I think it's 2208, but I'll double check.
Lou, do you remember? Was it 2308?
Can't tell you.
If it's on Chastleton, I think it has to be 22, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's gotta be 22.
It's 22.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 22.
All right, then I got it screwed up someplace. Okay. I'll have to find my copies.
Number 19, Pavey Excavating did a septic. And I think that, I don't know if it was Deanna had said that they submitted a permit and there was no LaPorte County permit. And they did the work, I think, the next day or whatever without the permit. But also on Mount Clair Way, which was newly paved about 3 or 4 weeks before that, they fractured the edge of the pavement along there. So John Wall had been out of town. He's coming back tonight. When he gets back, he said, pardon me, he said that he would go take a look at it and see what he thought about whether or not it needed to be repaired. He talked about there's some overhang that sometimes they pave over into the lawn area that's doesn't have paving underneath it, the existing paving underneath it. And if that's the case, then, it was going to happen no matter what. But so John will have to let us know about that.
But this isn't the first time that this company has done work without a permit, correct?
I don't know, Lou, has Pavey had an issue with no permit?
We've had problems with him in the past, but not recently. And he's a bit obstinate, but he's actually making a bigger effort to comply. He knows, he considers it a pain for him to get a county permit and a permit from us, but he knows he has to do it, and he has been doing it. So, is it worthy of bigger penalty at this point? I don't think so. The next move would definitely be reason to penalize the guy.
I think wasn't he the one involved in the scraping of the dunes on the beach, and then there was another situation
with that
a beach of installing a septic system without a permit on the beach.
Yeah, but that was a misunderstanding.
Bob, that was your issue, Bob. Remember that wasn't
right. That was the deal where, well, I think there was an initial time when some dunes were taken down by Pavey Excavating without a permit. And that was probably a couple years ago. Then last summer, there was the issue where I was concerned that a dune was being taken down, but we had actually told them that they could remove a septic tank that was down on the beach. And to get that septic tank down, they had to destroy some dune. And so I think that was a bit of a misunderstanding. So that the second time when they tore down dunes, I don't think that was necessarily that they were at fault.
Well, at the very least, we should send a letter and say, if you work without a permit again, we're going to pull it. We're going to pull your registration.
And then, just for clarity, he did, and I called, but I haven't gotten anything back yet from the county. He did list a septic permit number on his application, but he did not supply
Okay.
All right. Last thing on new business. And this was already done. Lou, I'm going to lean on this again. 3016 Mayfield Way. I don't know if you caught them working without a permit or whatever. They came in and did the permit the next day, but the job was already done and they weren't registered.
This is a roofing company, right?
Yes.
Right. Yeah, we caught them and they did come in and comply.
Did they pay a fine?
I didn't find them.
Okay.
All right.
Should we be fining them? I mean, this is how things work in Chicago is contractors come in, do work, and then when they get caught, they get a permit and get registered. I don't think we want to be like that.
Bob, in Chicago, they bring a bag of money to Lou and me.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Yeah. Well, cut me in on that and we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we need to, Lou, we need to find people when this happens. And I guess one thing we could do is to not allow them to ever register in the town or to register in the town of Long Beach for a year or something like that if we want to get serious about this.
I think we ought to all march down to City Hall and demand that the council invalidate this election.
Yeah, let's break some things too.
You were scaring me, man.
What's the name of this company? Is this a
No, I think it was a one and done, wasn't it, Lou? They were out of someplace in Illinois, and I can find it here for you quickly, but
Not a local group, that's for sure.
So they're not going to really care if we tell them they can't come back to Long Beach for a year, huh?
Well,
might not.
And they may not pay a fine even if we fine them, right?
Well, we could find the homeowner, can we not?
I think Chris has said at one point in time that they actually do run with the property if we issue a fine to the owner.
All right, then I'd make a motion that we fine them. I think we can still do that, right?
Yes.
So that's my motion.
Second.
If I could find it. I got the permit. Did I give you a number for that, Larry? I was trying to get that permit application. Deanna had written something on it.
You did. I just don't have it in front of me, but I'll get with Lou and we'll get the ticket written up.
But I'm just saying, I think, it sounded like from Deanna that it was just a misunderstanding by the owner. I don't know. It depends what you guys want to do, but I personally don't think we should fine them now.
Well, I have to admit, a few years ago, before I was involved with town government, I had a driveway put in, and I was told by the contractor that he got a permit and came to find out that he hadn't.
Retroactive fines are in order here.
There you go. Let me know, Lou.
This is pretty common. JAS Construction. Nobody's ever heard of them, right? So they come in and they do. Raymond Coyne is the guy's house. The permit number is 2012-250, Joe. So track it down. JAS Construction might be next to impossible, but we can certainly find the homeowner if y'all deem necessary.
I think if you want to do something, I think a warning would be sufficient, but that's just my opinion.
All right. Well, let's issue a citation to the homeowner, Lou, and then you can put that the fee is waived or that it's a warning or whatever you want. But, you know, it kind of goes hand in glove with what Joy is facing across the street from her. You know, the guy's from out of town. He doesn't care what we do. You know, I'm assuming that once this thing gets to court, it'll open his eyes up a little bit. But it's nice for Lou to know, especially when he's out there, that we're going to back him up and there's teeth in our ordinances, that, you know, he's not just tossing tickets out and they're being thrown in the garbage.
Well, our extent of our, correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, the most we can do to a contractor is take their registration away. The rest of it is on the homeowner. Yes?
Well, I think some of the fines, and we have to talk to Chris, but I think when Lou issues a fine for not being registered, that's probably on the contractor. Now, maybe that does go to the homeowner. I'm not sure. And that's what Chris was explaining to me earlier in the week, that these fines these tickets are, and I think you asked a question earlier, Pete, they're part of the whole negotiation with when it gets into the court system. You know, when Chris, let's say it's this guy, or let's say it's me, if I got a ticket on something, I go into the court and I sit with Chris and say, okay, you know, here, how about if I give you $500? Is that going to be okay? And then he comes back to you guys or the fine bureau, whatever, and says it's $500 okay. And then it's done, you know, if you guys agree to that. So, you know, it's
for example, when we did the Wilson thing, all we did was pull his permit.
Right. And he's back doing work. You know, Mr. Perry brought it up yesterday. You know, how could you let him do work? I said, well, you know, the issue, the town council revoked his license or his registration for a period of, I think it was 6 months. And, you know, then he was free to register back at that point in time. So, you know, I suppose by the gravity of the situation is how you make the term of the revocation of the registration.
Okay.
Okay. Signs in public view, actually, Chris covered that. That's all I had under new business. Anybody else have anything under new business?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Bob, now that we have, or shortly we'll have, a new police chief. One of the responsibilities of the police chief is to go around and check and enforce building without a permits. So I would like to recommend that we tell the police chief and his staff that their responsibility is to look for permits that are not posted and to report them to Lou immediately.
Okay. Yeah, and he's also said that he will also be willing to enforce stop work orders. So Lou, I think at this point, if we have stop work orders and they're being ignored, let's call the police. Let's see how that works, okay?
Right, we'll do. Yeah, and I'll be creating a file for all stop work orders. Somehow we need to have a paper copy of the stop work order that's issued. If we can create a form somehow that has a copy, or you know, I issue them on the spot. I don't have a copier in my car, so it would be good to be able to come up with a copy of a stop work order.
Okay, I had what I used to use, Lou, is just basically almost the same thing as a permit that size, and it said stop work order. Maybe we can run those off, and you're just using tickets right now, right, or citations?
Both citation and a card.
Okay.
Larry, we have I think what you did, it was black and white, but the problem what Lou is saying is it doesn't have a duplicate below it. So when he fills it out, is that what you're saying, Lou?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sure we could figure something out.
Don't they still make carbon copies anymore?
We could probably just go to Electrographics or whatever, and they could create us something.
I think so.
You could take a picture with your phone.
Well, I do, but that doesn't give me a piece of paper. That's what I've been doing, Joy. I'm going to go to Deanna and see if she has an idea for us.
Okay. The State Board of Accounts has asked for some information on some building permits from 2019. I think Joe said it's one from every month. Paperwork on that, and then they want to see some stop work orders and denials, which we'll provide to them. I don't know if that's part of their normal. I'm assuming that's part of the normal audit of the town's books or whatever the State Board of Accounts does. Mm-hmm. So she's been very nice and requested it, and so we've between Joe and I, we've passed some things on to Deanna and are covering the others. We'll get some stop work orders from Lou. Okay, any other?
Get ones that were enforced.
I think that one at the LeMay driveway might be one we better.
There you go.
Any other new business?
I think we nailed LeMay for the driveway.
There you go. Yeah.
All right.
Is there daily fines too? Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's start calculating now.
7,500 times 2 years.
That's right.
Holidays.
It's more like 5 or 6 years.
All right. Being no more new business, public comment. Anybody have any public comment?
Yeah, Mr. Wall.
Hello.
Mr. Wall.
Yeah.
Jim Nyla, 2201 Florimon, and I wish you Happy New Year and to all your commissioners. Larry, I'm looking for some clarification on the seawall that was approved today. Number one, was it a new permit or was it just the amended permit that was approved before?
It was an amendment to the permit based on, I don't know if Jim, I didn't see your name. I see your iPad. I don't know if you were here for the discussion. I
was.
Yeah, it was an amendment to the permit. Most of the work that they're doing is not changed except for the steel sheet piling being driven in a different location. So it is an amendment to the permit that was issued before.
Okay, great. And for clarification, you did approve a seawall lakeward of the existing seawall, is that correct?
No, and that's what Pete's discussion was, is that the steel sheet piling is at the location of the old steel sheet piling and concrete.
You can't misconstrue a concrete cap being 4 feet wide as a seawall.
No, it was the steel sheet piling underneath it. I don't know. Did you see the drawings when we had them up?
Yes.
Yeah, the existing concrete slab, grade beam for lack of a better term, was on top of steel sheet piling that was failing.
Okay, and another
sheet piling off and putting the new steel sheet piling landward or Lakeshore Driveward of where that existing steel sheet piling is.
I understand. And the lot, you have it listed as 3006. That is a vacant lot, correct?
Yes.
Does the building code in the zoning code of Town of Long Beach permit building structures on a vacant lot?
Pete, you answering that?
I'm asking for it.
No, I thought Pete, I saw him come up. They bought the lot, Jim, from their neighbors and incorporated it into their own property. The Careys did. So it's part of 3010, might be 3012. I can't remember which. We use 3008 because I don't know why. Joe, maybe you have an answer for that, why we started using 3008. I think you had actually said that we shouldn't use that, but it's part of the house is on 3010, and they bought this lot and incorporated it into their land.
Larry,
Yeah.
I don't think that's 100% correct. That that lot is a standalone lot. It is not and the house, I believe, is on 3008. And that's why they were calling this one 3006. And this lot was not incorporated with his other property. That's my view of it. Somebody could check if you want, but that's my view. It's not incorporated with all of it.
Yeah, I don't believe, Jim, that there's anything in our ordinances that does not allow someone to put a seawall on a non-developed lot.
Okay. And once again, I'd like to thank all the commissioners on what they do and the time that they give to the town. And a happy new year to you all.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jim.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Mary Lou.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Mary Lou.
Oh,
Okay, now I think we can hear you.
now can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so while we were talking, I texted Deanna and I said, did you get a permit? She said, yeah, I got it on my computer in front of me. They paid $1,486 for a fee. She sent it to the building department on November 10th at 3:17. And she said, oh, I see a note that Joe typed on the bottom of their permit log that says that the job would be non-conforming, and he put a no by it. Or if he didn't do it, then somebody did.
So what's the point?
And I think
For the
that was for Shannon. Is it Wojak or?
yeah, they sent a permit in and wanted to do work, and the work, we couldn't approve it because the lot was non-conforming. So she went back to the drawing board. That's what the discussion was about today. She went back to the drawing board, and supposedly J&B West has sent something else off to Deanna in the last week.
Oh, okay, no.
4 days. And we don't have a copy of that, so that's why we weren't able to look at it or discuss what she's proposing, because we don't have any paperwork on it.
Well, you know what, then that's correct, because that's all she has is from November.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
This has happened a couple of times before where there's been a contractor who would say, well, I sent the stuff in, and then come to find out that they said that to the owner because the owner was saying what's going on, and then it'll come in the next day. So I would expect that that's probably what we'll see here, that paperwork will get to us in the next day or two. Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I do have a question myself, if I can. My name is Bob Moran, stop 2300.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wondering when the plans are become available publicly to view for the stop 23.
When they come before the building commission, when the permit is actually applied for, and when they come before the building commission, Bob, is when that will be public information at that point in time.
We don't know that as of yet when it's going to come there.
When the building permit is applied for, yes, that's when it will happen.
Okay. Second question I had is that I was curious if I own any beach in front of my seawall. Both my neighbors go out 40 feet further than my seawall. And thus, if I do own beach, what are my rights as a town member, of not having a posted sign? What's going to keep people off my beach? So thus, it's a two-part question. Do I own 40 feet or 50 feet of beach?
No, Bob, you don't.
Bob, that's not a question for the building commission. That's a legal question that I would have you pose to either your lawyer or the town's attorney, as far as who owns what. And from a sign standpoint, as Bob LeMay had talked earlier, and Chris Willoughby is going to do some research too. The town has a sign ordinance, and there's a restriction on signs that can be placed on either public or private property. And that's why no decision was made today. When they do the research on that sign ordinance, then we can fill you in on what we find out. But it's not the building commission's job to tell somebody what they do or don't own.
Okay, so that would be town council job?
No, that's an issue that you'll have to, you're asking me a question that's a legal question, and I'm not going to answer it because number one, I'm not a lawyer. And number two, this group is not the people that would answer that question to you. I would suggest, I think your lawyer is still on here, that you ask him that question and he can pose it to either Chris Willoughby or whoever he deems necessary.
Okay, no problem. Have a good day.
Thanks. Any other public comment? Okay.
Pete made a motion.
All right, Pete made the motion. Who's second?
I'll second.
Joy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? Hey. Okay, guys, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
See you guys.